Everything we've done up to this point has led us to this final chapter. It's now time to take our artwork and do something with it, like outputting to a printer, another software program, or just placing it somewheres on the internet. In this lesson, we're going to talk about a bit about file formats. You'll need to save your document based on a file format that corresponds with your output choice. Photoshop gives you 22 different types of file formats to save your artwork. Wow, that's an awful lot of different types of file formats. It can be overwhelming with that many options. However, I'm going to make it easy for you and share with you the 4 most popular choices. Let's go up to File and select Save As. We can use our keyboard shortcuts here as well. We can use the Command or Control key with the Shift key plus the letter S to access this option here. Or if you're just going to save over top of your original image, you can use Command or Control and the letter S. So once you select this option, you then have an option to pick out different types of file formats. And right in here, under this format menu here, we have 22 different options, but I'm just going to go over the 4 most popular for your artwork. So the Photoshop format is simply a PSD file format, and you're going to use that anytime we have layers, layer styles, or other types of elements added to our artwork that we need to save for future use. So this is basically the file format that you want to use if you want to work non-destructively. We can also use the PSD file format in other Adobe products like Photoshop Elements, Illustrator, and other programs as well. There is some software out there that will read the PSD file formats, but not all software will read this type of file format. So if you're going to send this file to somebody else that needs to open it and they don't have the software to read the PSD file format, then you're going to have to save it in a different type of file format. In that case, you might want to choose the TIFF file format, and this will allow you to save layers as well and provides more people the opportunity to open your file that can open up a PSD file. We have an option here to save layers just like we did with PSD, and we can also embed the color profile just like we did with the PSD files. So I'm going to go ahead and click on save here because we do have more options for the TIFF file format if you wish to save in this file format. Now you'll notice in the TIFF options we do have a bunch of different options here, and we do have some default selections for us because 9 times out of 10 you're just going to want to save these as the default settings. So why would you want to select something else? Well, we do have LZW and ZIP or zip, which will be a form of file compression. Now this is a lossless type of file compression, meaning you're not going to lose any quality with this type of file format. However, if the person you're sending this file to is unable to unzip the file, then you're going to have to resave it and resend it. You can also save in a lossy type file format, which would be the JPEG compression, but you do lose quality of your image and you're not going to get that back after you've already saved it. So there's really no need to do a file compression with lossless or lossly, and I would just leave the default setting to none. We also have an option to save image pyramid, which preserves the multi-resolution information, which is readable by programs like InDesign. Not something you need to worry about if you're not using InDesign, so I would just leave this option unchecked. And then we have pixel order, we have interleaved and per channel. Again, I would just leave it at the default. And then we have byte order, which would be IBM or Macintosh, which simply improves the compatibility of the TIFF file with either a PC or a Mac computer. This might have been relevant 20 years ago, but nowadays there's really no difference. The computers are now able to interact with each other, speak to each other, and there's really no difference between IBM and Macintosh nowadays. So I would just leave it at the default. And we can also select our layer compression. We have RLE, which provides faster saves but bigger files. Zip, which is going to give you much slower saving and smaller files. And then we can also discard the layers and save a copy. Personally, I would just leave it on this for all occasions. There's really no need to set it to anything else. So plain and simple, just save the default settings and just click OK, and then you'll have your file saved as a TIFF file format. Another popular file format is PNG. I'm going to go ahead and open up a file that I've already saved as a PNG file. So in this design, I have a Christmas ornament, I have some text, and it's all on a transparent background. There's no background layers, no white, no black, no backgrounds at all. So I would save in this file format. If you want to save your artwork with a transparent background, and then you can use that as an overlay for your photo. So I can simply take this PNG file, drag it over to my other photo here, and now because we saved it as a PNG file with a transparent background, just the elements and the text is shown and the background of the photo is shown through. So saving as a PNG file is a popular format for this type of artwork. I wouldn't save my photographs as a PNG file because the files would be way too large in that file format. Instead, I would save it as a JPEG file. So once I have this file set up, let's say I want to put this overlay on this photo, I would then save it as a JPEG file if I want to send it to my printer or out to my professional lab or even to the internet. If I want to save this on my blog or post it on Facebook, I would then save it as a JPEG file. Now we just need to give our file a name, and then we're given an option to set the quality of our JPEG file. 10 is the default, and that's typically what I would save it at. If you're sending to a professional lab, they may recommend setting it at 12, which would be the maximum, but for the majority of time, you would just save it at a quality of 10. But if you do want a smaller file size, you can adjust the quality, but you're going to lose a lot of color information by selecting a smaller level of quality. You can also set it up for standard, optimized, or progressive. Again, 9 times out of 10, I would just leave it at standard. Optimized would be for optimizing the image for the internet, and then using progressive means that it will scan part of your image as it's being loaded up on your viewers' browsers. But that was a more popular option years ago. So personally, I would just stick with the baseline standard option. But if you are saving to the internet, even though you're going to save it as a JPEG file, you're going to want to save your file as a 72 dpi. Right now it's set at 300 resolution, which is perfect for printing. But for the internet, that's way too large. You're going to want 72 dpi for your website, for Facebook, etc. And that's what I would recommend for saving to the internet. So once you resize the file, then you have to save it. So I would go up to File, Export, and then Save for Web. This is legacy. That simply means this is a saving option that was available in older versions, and it simply means that eventually Photoshop is going to get rid of this option. So if you're used to this option from previous Photoshop versions, then just know that eventually this is going to be removed from a future release of Photoshop. So in that case, you could select Export As instead, and then you're given additional options for saving your file. You can increase or decrease the size of your canvas. You can select your file format. And again, for photographs saving to the web, I would choose JPEG, and then you can adjust your quality from here. So for something like this, I would do 80% is usually typically a good quality setting. And then we have our file size here, and I would recommend trying to keep this under 250 kilobytes. So right now 144 is a pretty good size, but if you're going to put this on your website and you have 10, 20, 50 images or more, you're going to want to try and get this number lower if possible, and one way to do that is to lower the quality setting. So at 70%, we have now dropped down to 114 kilobytes versus 140 before. But if the quality reduces the quality of your image, then you may want to go with a higher quality setting. And that's it. Those are the 4 most popular file formats for saving your images: PSD, TIFF, PNG, and JPEG.